The smart lock beeped, insistent. Then a voice, familiar and shameless. "Open up. This is your brother's house." I lifted my phone, hit record, and a cold realization hit me. Today, everything gets documented. They thought I was the same dutiful girl they always knew. They hadn't met the version of me who was ready to push back on the door and lock it from the inside. My name is Nora Whitfield. I am 32 years old, and I live on the 12th floor. It was Saturday morning, maybe 9:15. The light in Riverton, Colorado, always hits different this high up. It was slicing through the gap in my blackout curtains, clean and sharp, promising a quiet day. I was a freelance lighting designer. Quiet days were where I did my best work, sketching out plots, figuring out the moods for a stage. My mug of black coffee was halfway to my lips when the sound started. Beep, 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 pause, beep, beep, beep. The electronic lock on my front door. Wrong code. It was not the tentative, oops, wrong number, beep. It was the insistent, angry kind. Someone was just mashing numbers, trying to brute force their way in. My heart did a quick, ugly kickflip. I lived alone. I always knew who was coming. Beep, 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 error. I set the mug down, the ceramic making a sharp clack against the quartz countertop. Silence. Then, the sound of the handle being tried. A hard metallic jiggle. I moved without making a sound. My phone was on the charging pad. I grabbed it. I did not check the peephole. I did not need to. The voice that came through the thick steel door confirmed it. "Nora, open this door. We know you're in there." My mother, Patricia Whitfield. Her voice was not worried. It was commanding. It was the voice she used when I was 12 and had missed curfew by 3 minutes. I reached the door. My hand was shaking, just slightly. I flipped the deadbolt, not to open it, but to check that it was engaged. It was. I leaned forward, my eye to the peephole. The fisheye lens distorted them, but they were clear. My mother, Patricia, her face pulled tight with impatience. My brother, Brady, rocking on his heels, looking bored and entitled, and just at the edge of the frame, near the concrete stairwell. I saw the lopsided shadow. My father, Graham. He was lurking, hands in his pockets, refusing to look directly at the door. He was the lookout, the passive muscle. My breath hitched. I stepped back. I slid the security chain into its groove. The little clink of the metal was louder than a gunshot in the quiet hallway. They heard it. "Did you just chain that door, Nora?" Patricia's voice went up an octave, sharp with disbelief. I swiped open my phone camera, flipped it to video, hit record. I held the phone up, angling it toward the door, my thumb holding it steady. I took one deep breath, then another. "State your names and your purpose for the record," I said. My voice was low. I did not recognize it. It sounded like a field reporter at a hostage scene. Calm, too calm. "What the hell?" Brady's voice, muffled. Is she filming?" A heavy thud hit the door. Brady. He had thrown his shoulder into it. The security chain rattled violently, holding firm. "Brady, stop," Patricia hissed at him. Then her voice returned to the door. "Nora Whitfield, this is not a game. I have the papers. You need to let us in to prepare the house." "Prepare the house for what?" I kept the camera steady. "For Brady," Patricia said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Through the peephole, I saw her lift a manila folder, an official-looking, thick folder. She tapped it against the wood. "He needs to set up his studio. We discussed this. This condo is perfect for his clients." His clients. Brady had not held a job for more than 6 months in his entire adult life. The scene dissolved. My focus blurred, and I was not in my hallway anymore. I was at the Keg. 24 hours ago, Friday night, my father's 65th birthday dinner. The table was full of prime rib and expensive red wine. We were raising our glasses. My father, Graham, his face flushed with wine, stood up. "A toast," he said, "to my family, to Patricia, my rock, and to my son, Brady." He paused, beaming. To his new venture, and to the asset that is going to make it all possible. Brady preened, raising his glass higher. My mother smiled, a tight, satisfied little smile, looking right at me. The whole table laughed, the whole table, except me. To Brady's asset, they murmured. I had thought it was just a figure of speech, a poorly worded, alcohol-fueled toast. I had thought they meant his charm, or his potential. I had been wrong. They meant my condo. The thud came again, pulling me back to the present. Brady, impatient. I do not know what you're talking about, I said, my voice hardening. The reporter was gone. This was me now. Nora, do not be difficult, Patricia snapped. This is your brother's house. That was the line, the one that made the acid rise in my throat. Hold on, I said. I kept the phone recording, bracing it between my shoulder and ear. I walked backward to the small desk I kept by the door for mail. I pulled open the top drawer. I did not fumble. I knew exactly where they were. I pulled out my own folder, not manila, a professional, black, expandable file. I walked back to the door. I put my eye to the peephole again. They were still there, waiting. I angled the phone's camera down at the documents in my hand. For the record, I said, my voice shaking a little now, not with fear, but with a cold, righteous fury. I pulled out the first paper. This is the deed of title for Unit 1204. Riverton Towers. I zoomed in on the name. Owner, Nora Elizabeth Whitfield. I pulled out the second. This is the primary mortgage note. I panned the camera. Lender, Mountain View Financial. Borrower, Nora Elizabeth Whitfield. I pulled out the thick stack of statements. These are the mortgage statements for the past 8 years, paid in full, every month, from the checking account of Nora Elizabeth Whitfield. I pulled out the last one, the homeowner's insurance policy, the liability coverage. I found the name. Insured, Nora Elizabeth Whitfield. I let the camera linger on my name, spelled out, official, binding. I was reading them their verdict. This is my house, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, but I knew the phone's microphone would catch it. You are not welcome. I did not wait for a response. I took my eye from the peephole. I stepped back. With one fluid motion, I slammed the deadbolt home. Click. The solid, final sound of steel in the frame. The silence outside lasted for 3 seconds. Then, the explosion. It was not just a knock. It was a barrage. Fists, palms, pounding on the door. Nora! You ungrateful little... My mother, her voice, stripped of all its social grace, was a raw shriek. Open the damn door, Nora! You cannot do this! Brady, his voice cracking like a teenager's. The pounding was rhythmic. Thud, thud, thud. They were rattling the frame. I stumbled back, leaning against the opposite wall. The phone was still in my hand, still recording. I could see my own wide, terrified eyes in the small selfie window. The adrenaline hit its peak and then evaporated, leaving a vacuum. The panic I had been holding back flooded in. My knees gave out. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor. My legs splayed out in front of me. The shaking started in my hands, then my shoulders. A sob, hot and choked, tore its way out of my chest. I cried. I cried for the sheer, brazen audacity. I cried for the betrayal that was so deep I had not even recognized it 24 hours ago. I cried because my father was out there, letting this happen. The camera lens was pointed at the ceiling now, but the audio was perfect. The screaming, the pounding, my own ragged breathing. I did not stop recording. I documented every second of it. After 5 minutes, or maybe it was 10, time had stopped making sense. The pounding subsided. I heard the ding of the elevator, a final string of curses from Brady, and then silence. I stayed on the floor, my cheek against the cool drywall. My phone was heavy in my hand. Bzzzt. A notification lit up the screen, interrupting the recording app. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand, sniffling. I thumbed the notification open. It was an email. From Mountain View Financial Services. Subject, appraisal confirmation, loan. My brows furrowed. I tapped it open. Dear Ms. Whitfield, this email is to confirm your upcoming property appraisal for your home equity line of credit, HELOC application. Your appraiser, Mr. James, is scheduled for Monday, October 10th, between 1 and 3 p.m. Monday. That was 2 days from now. I had not applied for a HELOC. I had nearly 30% equity in my condo. Equity I had systematically, painfully built by taking every extra gig, by working weekends, by sacrificing my 20s. A HELOC, a line of credit against my home. The birthday toast, to Brady's asset. The manila folder. I have the papers. The demand. This is for Brady's studio. They were not just trying to bully me, they were trying to steal it. They were trying to leverage my equity to fund my brother's fantasy project. And if they had an appraisal scheduled, that meant the application was already in. A cold, sharp clarity cut through the last of my tears. How? How do you apply for a loan in someone else's name?
You need everything.
You need their full legal name, Nora Elizabeth Whitfield. You need their date of birth. You need their social security number. The pieces did not just fall into place, they slammed into place, building a prison around me. Who had my social security card, tucked away in an old family records file box in her attic? Patricia. Who had a copy of my birth certificate? Patricia. Who set up my first bank account, and therefore knew the answers to all those archaic security questions? What was the name of your first pet? Whiskers. A cat she named. What was your mother's maiden name? A trick question. What elementary school did you attend? Riverton Elementary. She was the PTA president. It was her. It was always her. My father was the passive muscle. My brother was the beneficiary. But my mother, Patricia, was the architect. I stopped the recording. The file saved. Runtime, 15 minutes, 42 seconds. I looked at the email again, the appraisal. They had not just come to prepare the house, they had come to get in before the appraiser. The shaking came back, but this time, it was not panic. It was rage. The rage was a clean, cold fuel. I did not get up from the floor. I stayed right there, my back against the wall, and I pulled up the Mountain View Financial website on my phone. I found the number for the Fraud and Security Department. The automated system was obnoxiously cheerful. I pressed 0 until a human voice clicked onto the line. David, Fraud Department, how can I assist you? My name is Nora Whitfield. My voice was a monotone, completely flat. It did not shake. I am a resident of Riverton, Colorado. I have just received an email confirmation for a home equity line of credit, application number 74992. I did not apply for this loan. The typing on the other end stopped. David's tone became serious. I understand. Ms. Whitfield, that is a critical matter. I will need to verify your identity before we can proceed. I am ready. What was the name of your elementary school? Riverton Elementary, I said. My mother, the PTA president. What was the name of your first pet? Whiskers, a gray tabby she had picked out and named. And your mother's maiden name? I paused, the one piece of data that was actually hers. Kensington. Thank you, Ms. Whitfield. You are verified. The typing resumed, faster this time. Yes, I see the application here. It was filed online 48 hours ago. It is currently pending appraisal. 48 hours, Thursday, the day before my father's birthday dinner, the day before they raised their glasses and toasted my ruin. I need you to flag that application as fraudulent, effective immediately. Of course, I am flagging it now. I also need the appraisal scheduled for Monday, October 10th, to be canceled. I need confirmation that the appraiser, Mr. James, will not be coming to my property. I am canceling that appointment as we speak. Ms. Whitfield, it is done. One last thing. I need an immediate, hard freeze placed on my credit, all 3 bureaus, right now. We can absolutely initiate that. David paused. Ms. Whitfield, our system requires that I ask this for the report. Do you have any idea who might have used your information to file this application? He was giving me an out, a chance to be vague. A relative, I could say. A family member. No, the time for vague was over. This was a crime, and a crime needs a name. Yes, I said, my voice like ice. I know exactly who it was. The applicant was Patricia Whitfield. David stopped typing. See, ma'am, I am required to document that name. That is a formal accusation. I am aware, I said. Document it. Very well. The file is flagged. The loan is void. The appraisal is cancelled. The credit freeze is in process. Thank you, David. I hung up. I finally stood. My legs were stiff. The panic had been burned away, leaving only the process. I walked to my office, sat at my desk, and opened a new text document. I typed, Incident Report. I did not write like a daughter. I wrote like a witness. Date, Saturday, October 8th. Time, 9:15 a.m. Event, attempted forced entry at Unit 1204. Participants, Patricia Whitfield, mother. Brady Whitfield, brother. Graham Whitfield, father. I detailed the sequence, the unauthorized code attempts, the physical impacts on the door, the specific verbal threat. This is your brother's house. I created a second entry, fraudulent loan application. Event, a home equity line of credit application. Number 74992. Perpetrator, Patricia Whitfield. I listed the security questions I had answered for the bank, and next to each one, I noted, Knowledge held by Patricia Whitfield. I finished typing. It was 2 pages long. I saved it as a PDF. Incident Report 1008. My phone buzzed. A text message. It was from Eli Torres, the neighbor in 1304. Directly above me. We barely knew each other beyond nods in the elevator. Eli. Hey, Nora. You okay? Heard a hell of a lot of screaming and banging on your door about 20 minutes ago. Sounded ugly. Let me know if you need anything, or if you need a witness for the landlord. My fingers were already moving. Eli, thank you. I am safe. It was my family attempting to force entry. Did you hear anything specific? He replied instantly. Heard a woman yelling, This is your brother's house and ungrateful. And a guy just pounding on the door. My dog was going nuts. Hope you're safe. My heart hammered. A witness. Eli. Would you be willing to write that down, exactly as you heard it, in an email to me? For my records? Eli. Absolutely. Sending it now. Get a new deadbolt. My mind was clear. I was building a case. On my secure drive, I created a new folder. I named it Evidence RR12. I plugged my phone into the laptop. The first file I transferred was the video I had taken. Door Incident 1008 MP4. 15 minutes and 42 seconds of threats. I saved the email from Mountain View. HELOC, fraud, email, PDF. I saved the appraisal confirmation. Appraisal cancel, PDF. I opened my Smart Locks app and pulled the access log. 9:08 a.m. Code, failed. 9:09 a.m. Code, failed. 9:09 a.m. Code, failed. They had tried my old birth date. They had tried Brady's birthday. They had tried the last 4 of my social. I exported the log. Lock log 1008.csv. I stared at the 4 files. A good start. The credit freeze. The bank had started it. But I needed to see the damage myself. I logged into my credit monitoring service. There it was. A hard inquiry. From Mountain View Financial. Date, October 1st. 1 week ago. My blood ran cold. October 1st. That was not Thursday. That was last Saturday. No, wait. Friday. It was Friday night. My father's birthday dinner. The toast. They were raising their glasses to Brady's asset at the exact moment the hard inquiry was hitting my file. They had applied, and then they had come to dinner to celebrate. My humiliation was their appetizer. I took a screenshot. Inquiry 1001 PNG. My hand, moving on its own, opened a new browser tab. Facebook. I was not friends with Brady. He had blocked me years ago when I refused to invest in his dropshipping scam. But his profile was, as always, public. His latest post, from 2 hours ago, right after they left my door. It was a moody photo of him staring out a coffee shop window. The caption, "Hard to believe what some people will do. Family is supposed to mean everything. But I guess some people only care about property. Betrayal is the ugliest color." Comments were already pouring in. "Stay strong, man. You're better off. Whoever hurt you will get theirs." He was establishing the narrative. He was the victim. I was the betrayer. I screenshotted the post. I screenshotted the comments. Brady FB 1008.png. A sick feeling rolled through me. My business. Lumina Works. It was my freelance lighting design company. It was just me. My reputation was my only currency. I opened Google. I typed Lumina Works reviews. My stomach dropped into the floor. My perfect 5-star rating was gone. It was now a 3.2. 2 new reviews, both posted late last night, posted while I was asleep. The first, from a concerned client. 1 star. This designer is impossible to work with. She is cold, unfeeling, and completely selfish, cares only about money and will not listen to reason. She has no concept of family or loyalty. Find someone else. The second, from Patty K. 1 star. Patty K. Patricia Kensington. She was not even trying to be subtle. I am very disappointed. This business owner refused a simple request and was incredibly hostile. She is not the person she pretends to be. She is ungrateful and disrespectful. I would warn all good people to stay away. Ungrateful, disrespectful, hostile, the trifecta. The words my mother used to describe any boundary I ever dared to set. This was not just an attack on my home. They were trying to destroy my livelihood. This was a siege. My hands were steady. I clicked Report Review on both Google and Yelp. The form asked for a reason. I selected conflict of interest and harassment. In the text box, I did not write an emotional plea. I wrote, "These reviews were posted by individuals involved in an active domestic dispute and an attempt at financial fraud against me. The reviewer, Patty K., is Patricia Whitfield. My mother. These reviews are not from legitimate clients. They are part of a coordinated harassment campaign. I submitted the complaints, but I did not ask for them to be removed immediately. Let the digital footprint set. I saved the screenshots. Review PK1007.png. Review concerned 1007.png. The evidence folder was growing. I sat back, my mind racing. The timeline was solid. The motive was clear. But one thing was wrong. The lock log. It showed failed. They never got in. So why was Patricia so confident? Why did she say, "Prepare the house," as if she had already been inside? How did they plan to let the appraiser in on Monday? They had to have a key. But my unit was a high-security lock. The fob was needed for the lobby, the elevator, everything. I had the only physical key. Unless the service elevator. It opened into the freight hallway, right next to my unit. It required a special master key, held only by building management. I picked up my phone and dialed the front desk. Mrs. Klein, the weekend security guard, answered. Riverton Towers, front desk. Mrs. Klein, hi, this is Nora Whitfield in 1204. Oh, Ms. Whitfield. We heard the commotion. Are you all right? Mr. Marcel, the HOA president, had to tell your family to leave the lobby just now. My blood chilled. Mr. Marcel, the head of the board. He was here? On a Saturday? I'm fine. Mrs. Klein, I have a strange question. Did you see my family use the service elevator this morning? Well, no. Ms. Whitfield, they didn't come through the lobby today. They must have parked in the garage. But to get to my floor— Oh, they didn't need the elevator, she said, her voice lowering conspiratorially. Your mother already had a key fob. She came by late last night to pick it up. The room spun. What? You gave my mother a key fob to my floor? Oh, heavens no. Ms. Whitfield, I wouldn't do that. She sounded offended. I was off duty. I just saw the log when I came in. Someone from the board signed out a temporary resident fob for your unit. The log says it was picked up by an acquaintance, signed off by the board. An acquaintance, signed off by the board. Mr. Marcel, who happened to be in the lobby to escort them out. This was not just my family. This was bigger. They had an inside man. Thank you, Mrs. Klein, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You have been very helpful. I hung up. The crime I had named, Patricia Whitfield, was only the beginning. This was not just identity theft. This was a conspiracy. My office wall is painted a calm, slate gray. It is usually where I map out lighting designs for a new production, a canvas for colored gels and angles of incidents. By Saturday afternoon, it was no longer a creative space. It was a war room. I took down a concept board for a local theater's production of Medea. The irony was not lost on me, and replaced it with a blank void. I went to my desk drawer and pulled out a box of pushpins. They were bright red, like droplets of blood. I found a spool of red twine. I started with the first document I had saved to the Evidence R12 folder, the screenshot of the hard inquiry on my credit report. I pinned it to the top left corner of the wall. October 1st. Next to it, I pinned the email from Mountain View Financial. October 6th. The fraudulent HELOC application. Beside that, the access log from my smart lock. October 8th, 9:08 a.m., the failed attempts. I ran a line of red twine from the inquiry to the application, a separate line from the application to the assault at my door. The timeline was taking shape, a grim constellation. I went to my printer. I logged into my bank account, went to the mortgage portal, and started printing. I printed every single statement for the last 8 years. 96 payments. 96 times I had chosen this. My home. Over a vacation. Over a new car. Over a better wardrobe. I laid them out on the floor, a tiled history of my sacrifices. I found the very first one, the one that represented the down payment. That down payment was everything I had saved. It was the money I was supposed to use for my Master of Fine Arts degree at the Denver Institute. I remembered the conversation clearly. My mother, Patricia, sitting at our kitchen table, telling me an MFA in lighting design was a frivolous luxury. She said, "Real estate is a sure thing. Nora, a degree is just a piece of paper." I picked up that first statement. I took a thick black marker and wrote across the bottom, Denver MFA Fund, Mortgage. I tacked that statement to the wall. This is what it cost me. I connected the twine from that statement to the HELOC application. They were not just trying to steal my condo. They were trying to steal the life I had built, instead of the one they had advised me against. Now the how. How did she get my social security number? I knew she had it, but I needed to prove the origin. I needed the data source. I went into my archived emails. The search bar glowed. I typed, FAFSA. The chain popped up, dated 12 years ago, an email from P. Whitfield at AOL.com. Subject, College Forms. Nora Darling, I found a mistake on the forms you filled out. I need you to sign this new one and send it back. I will handle the hard copies for our family records. It is vital to keep hard copies. I clicked the attachment, FAFSA Final Nora, PDF. I opened it. My entire life was on that single form. My full legal name, Nora Elizabeth Whitfield, my date of birth, and there, in box number 8, my social security number. The document she had insisted on keeping a hard copy of, the one I had forgotten existed. I printed the email chain. I printed the FAFSA form, circling box 8 in red ink. I pinned them to the wall, right next to the HELOC application. I ran a new line of twine, the means, the motive, the opportunity. My wall was becoming a map of their minds. But I was missing a piece of the present. I needed Eli. I texted him, "Are you home? I need that audio file you mentioned." He replied in minutes, "Come on up." I met him in the hallway outside his unit. 1304. He looked worried, holding his phone. "You look better than you sounded," he said, wincing. "I need the file. Eli, not just your statement, the audio." He nodded, already tapping his screen. "My doorbell cam catches everything in the hallway. It saves to a 30-day cloud loop before it deletes." He turned the phone, and I could see the app. He pressed play. Beep, 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 error. "Open the damn door. Nora." Brady. "This is your brother's house." Patricia. "Ungrateful." The sound of the pounding, the heavy thud of Brady's shoulder, was even more visceral on the recording. It was raw, metallic, and violent. "They delete after 30 days?" I asked, my voice tight. "Yeah, standard loop." "Can you download it? Right now? Export the raw file and email it to me? And then, can you please save a copy to an external drive for yourself, somewhere safe?" He looked at me, his eyes narrowing, understanding. "You're building a case, aren't you?" "I'm building a wall," I said, "and I need every brick." "I get it," he said, a new respect in his eyes. "File is on its way. You got it." I went back to my unit. The email from Eli arrived before the elevator dinged. I saved hallway audio 1008 MP4 to the evidence folder. I pinned his emailed, notarized statement to my wall. Next, Mrs. Klein, the night guard. She was my only link to the key fob. I waited until 7 p.m., when I knew her shift started. I went down to the lobby with 2 cups of coffee, one black, one with cream and sugar. "Mrs. Klein," I said, sliding the cream and sugar across the desk. "You looked cold." She smiled, surprised. "Ms. Whitfield, you didn't have to do that. Awful business this morning. Just awful." "It was," I said, leaning on the desk. "And it's what I wanted to ask about. You mentioned the key fob, the log. I'm terrified they still have access." She sipped the coffee and her face softened. She looked around. The lobby was empty. "I'm really not supposed to show residents this, but you look like you haven't slept. And that Mr. Marcel, he's a piece of work anyway." She turned her monitor. She clicked through a few screens, grumbling about the new software. "Here it is, the building management master log." My eyes scanned the screen. It was all there. Time, Friday, October 7th, 10:04 p.m. I was asleep. This was after the reviews were posted. User, D. Marcel. Action, temporary resident fob, Unit 1204, issued, 24-hour. Reason, owner request, relative pickup, pickup signature, illegible, a quick digital squiggle. "The authorizing user was Darren Marcel," I said aloud. "The HOA president." "That's right," Mrs. Klein said, lowering her voice. "He's the board. He can do what he wants. He signed it out, said your family was coming to get it. He's the one who met them and gave it to them. I'll bet." A temporary, 24-hour fob. It explained everything. They had come last night, late. They had stood outside my door, the failed attempts in the log, trying every code they could think of. My birthday, Brady's birthday, the last 4 of my social. When none of them worked, the fob expired, and they came back this morning for the brute force, shoulder shoving, let me in assault. "Thank you, Mrs. Klein," I said, my voice hollow. "You have no idea how much this helps." I went back upstairs. The conspiracy was real. I took a blank index card. In red marker, I wrote, "Darren Marcel, HOA president, co-conspirator." I pinned it to the wall. Why? Why would the HOA president risk his position for this? Money. It had to be money, or some kind of leverage Patricia had on him. He gave them access. He let them try the codes. He ran interference in the lobby this morning. I ran a red line of twine from Marcel's name to the door assault log. My wall was telling me what to do next. The HOA was compromised. They were part of it. I spent the next 2 hours researching. I was not an attorney, but I was a designer. I knew how to read a schematic. I knew how to find a structural flaw. I drafted a new document. I addressed it to the Riverton Towers HOA Board of Directors, and I CC'd Darren Marcel by name. The subject line was clinical: legal notice of spoliation and demand for preservation of evidence. I wrote, "You are hereby on notice that a security incident, including unauthorized access attempts and attempted criminal fraud, occurred involving Unit 1204 on or about October 7th and October 8th. I am formally demanding the immediate preservation of all potentially relevant evidence for impending litigation." I made a list. 1. All digital access logs for all elevators, service elevators, and stairwells for the period of October 7th through October 9th. 2. All digital logs for the management level key fob system, including all logs associated with Darren Marcel. 3. All video surveillance footage from the lobby, garage, and the 12th floor hallway. I found a template online and finished with a cold line. Failure to preserve this data will be considered spoliation of evidence and will subject the HOA and its officers to severe legal sanctions for gross negligence. I printed it. I emailed a digital copy to the HOA's public address. The response came on Monday morning, not from Marcel, but from the HOA's legal counsel. It was a masterpiece of evasion. "Ms. Whitfield, we are in receipt of your communication. Please be advised that the Riverton Towers HOA maintains records in accordance with our standard operating procedures. We cannot comment on specific residents or ongoing security matters." It was a non-answer. They deliberately avoided the phrase data retention. They were trying to run out the clock. Our security footage loops delete after 72 hours. They were waiting for Tuesday. They were stonewalling me, hoping the proof would simply evaporate. Fine. If they wanted to play that game, I would use the rulebook. I researched Colorado state regulations regarding homeowner associations. I found it. The Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, Section 3833.3-317. It gave homeowners the right to inspect all association records. It was an Internal Freedom of Information Act. I drafted a new letter, formal request for inspection of records, pursuant to CRS 38 to 33.331 and scene. I cited the statute by name. I demanded the exact same logs. I sent it certified mail. Return receipt requested. To their management company. Checkmate. I came back from the post office on Tuesday, exhausted. The adrenaline was long gone, replaced by a low, grinding dread. I checked my mailbox. Junk, bills, and one plain, brown manila envelope. No stamp, no return address. It had been hand-delivered, slipped into my box. My heart seized. I took the stairs, not the elevator. My keys gripped between my fingers like claws. I got inside my apartment, slid the chain, and tore it open. It was a single sheet of paper, a photocopy. At the top, the title read, "Limited Power of Attorney." I scanned the text, my blood turning to ice. It was dense legal language. Hereby grants Patricia Whitfield the authority to act as agent for Nora Whitfield in all matters concerning the property located at 1204 Riverton Towers. My eyes jumped to the last paragraph, the one that made me physically ill, including the authority to negotiate, apply for, and secure credit products, including but not limited to home equity lines of credit, using said property as collateral. At the bottom, there was a signature line, Nora E. Whitfield. It was my signature. It was a perfect, beautiful, undeniable forgery. I had not seen this signature in years. It was the looping, optimistic, freshman year of college signature I had used, the exact signature that was on my FAFSA form. Taped to the bottom of the photocopy was a small, folded yellow sticky note. I unfolded it, a message, written in shaky, all-caps block letters. "He is in on it. Check the Riverstone law firm. They drew it up. A whistleblower. Someone inside the HOA. Or maybe someone at the law firm. Someone who saw this and knew it was wrong. This was the linchpin. They had not just applied for a loan. They had created the legal instrument to control the asset, to sign on my behalf, to liquidate my life. This was not a moment of desperation. This was a long, calculated conspiracy. I walked back to my wall. The red twine was a spider's web. I took the forged power of attorney. I pinned it directly in the center of the wall. It was the final piece, the one that connected my mother's greed, my father's silence, Brady's entitlement, and Darren Marcel's corruption. This was not a family drama. This was a criminal conspiracy, and I finally had the map. The text message arrived on Tuesday evening. It was from Patricia. It was not a request. Tonight, my house, 7 p.m., mandatory. 2 minutes later, my father forwarded it. Graham's message was just a blank forward. No hope you can make it. No please come. Just a silent endorsement of the command. They were summoning me, not to apologize, but to finish what they had started. I replied to his forward, I will be there. I spent the next hour at an office supply store. I bought 3 black, 3-inch D-ring binders. I bought a pack of clear sheet protectors. I bought a digital voice recorder, the kind with a high-sensitivity microphone. I went home. I stood in front of my wall of evidence, my map of their conspiracy. The red twine looked like veins, and I was the surgeon about to make the incision. I carefully unpinned every document. I disassembled the wall. Piece by piece, I slid each email, each screenshot, each log file into a clear sheet protector. I did not just print my evidence, I curated it. At 6:30 p.m., I was ready. I labeled the spines of the binders in thick black marker. The first binder, deed and note. This contained my title, my mortgage agreement, and the 96 mortgage statements, proof of ownership. The second binder, fraud trail. This held the HELOC application, the credit inquiry, the FAFSA form, the forged limited power of attorney, and the email from the whistleblower, the how. The third binder, harassment and damages. This contained Eli's audio file transcript, the doorbell log, the 1-star reviews from Patty K. Brady's betrayal Facebook post, and the HOA's evasive letters, the consequences. I had my armor, I had my weapons. I placed the new voice recorder in my coat pocket, along with a small, button-sized, wide-angle camera. I walked out of my condo and drove to the house I grew up in, the house where the conspiracy was born. I arrived at exactly 7 p.m. I did not ring the bell. I used my old key. It still worked. They were all there, sitting in the formal living room, the room reserved for bad news and holidays. Patricia was on the sofa, Brady at her side, Graham in his recliner. They looked like they were staging an intervention. On the coffee table in front of them, a thick stack of papers sat, bound by a blue cover. Nora, Patricia began, her voice smooth, as if this were a normal Tuesday. Good, you're here. We have some important things to discuss. Graham? My father cleared his throat, but before he could speak, I held up a hand. No, I said. The word hung in the air, cold and heavy. Excuse me? Patricia's eyes narrowed. I am not here to listen, I said. I am here to present. I walked to the coffee table. I pushed their document aside. I saw the title, Agreement of Asset Transfer, from the Riverstone Law Firm. I placed my 3 black binders on the table. The sound they made was solid. Final. Thud, thud, thud. I took the voice recorder from my pocket. I clicked record. The small red light blinked on. I placed it in the center of the table, next to their transfer agreement. What is this? Brady scoffed, gesturing at the binders. Is this a joke? Your college portfolio? This, I said, is your arraignment. I picked up the first binder, deed and note. I handed it to my father. Graham, start here. I gave the second binder, fraud trail, to my mother. Patricia, this one is for you. I slid the last binder, harassment and damages, across the table. It stopped directly in front of Brady. "Brady, read this. I know you will recognize some of the language." Silence, no one moved. "Open them," I commanded. Slowly, Graham opened his. He was a meticulous man. He started with page 1. He read my name on the deed. He read my name on the mortgage note. He began, his lips moving silently, to count the 96 mortgage statements. Brady, predictably, was bored. He flipped his binder open, saw the screenshots of his own Facebook post, and snorted. "So what? It's social media. It's the truth. You betrayed us." "Turn the page," I said. He did. He saw the 1-star review from a concerned client. "Cares only about money and will not listen to reason." "Keep going." He saw the 1-star review from Patty K. "Ungrateful and disrespectful." I leaned in. "Your phrasing is getting lazy. Brady, you used ungrateful in your Facebook post, and in the review you ghost wrote for her. You need to expand your vocabulary if you're going to continue this." His face flushed crimson. I don't know what you're talking about." "It's all in there," I said, tapping the binder. "Every word." From the recliner, there was a sharp intake of breath. Graham. He had stopped counting. He had moved on. He was staring at the second section of his binder. I had put copies of the fraud trail in all 3. He was on the page with the hard inquiry screenshot from October 1st. From the sofa, Patricia was frozen. She had her binder open to the centerpiece, the limited power of attorney, the forged signature. Her face was white. "Graham," I said, my voice quiet. "You're at the hard inquiry. You'll notice the date. October 1st. That was the night of your birthday dinner. You were raising your glass to Brady's asset at the exact moment this hit my credit file. Was that your idea? Or hers?" He did not look up. He just turned the page. He saw the FAFSA form. He saw my social security number circled in red. He saw the forged power of attorney. "My God," he whispered. He looked up, not at me, but at his wife. "Patricia, what is this?" Patricia's face, which had been white with shock, was now mottling with red. Her hands were shaking. She did not look ashamed. She looked furious. "It was necessary," she suddenly screamed, slamming the binder shut. "It was for the family. It was to protect Brady. You were hoarding that condo. Nora, hoarding it." "So you forged my name," I stated. "It was a formality, a form." A small, choked sound came from Patricia. She began to cry, but it was not the crying of remorse. It was not the soft, pained crying of a mother who had hurt her child. It was the dry, ragged, breathless sobbing of a despot who had just been overthrown. It was the sound of pure, undiluted rage at a loss of control. "You had no right," she sobbed, pounding her fist on the closed binder. "After all we did for you, that is our asset." "It is my home," I said, my voice cutting through her manufactured sobs. "And now, we are at the consequences." I held up my hand, silencing the room. "I am going to say this once. This is my one and only legal warning to you. As of this moment, my home is a fortress. If any of you, Patricia, Brady, Graham, or anyone you send, sets foot on the 12th floor, if you so much as breathe on my front door, I will not call my landlord. I will call the Riverton police. I will file this," I tapped the harassment binder, "and I will get a restraining order. Am I clear?" The doorbell rang. The sound was sharp, puncturing the thick, toxic air. Everyone froze. "Were you expecting someone?" I asked Patricia. She looked confused, wiping her fake tears away. "No, I—" Graham got up, a look of relief on his face to be escaping. He went to the door. We heard murmurs. He returned, followed by a young man in an ill-fitting suit, clutching a leather briefcase. He looked about 24. This is Mr. Hines," Graham said, confused. "He says he's from the Riverstone law firm. He says he has a delivery for Nora Whitfield." My heart hammered. The whistleblower. Check the Riverstone law firm. The young man, Hines, looked terrified to be in this room. Ms. Whitfield? I'm a junior associate. I have the original documents for you to sign, the asset transfer agreement. He gestured to the packet on the table. And, I said, standing up, what else do you have? And the executed power of attorney, he said, pulling a document from his briefcase. My partner, Mr. Stone, said it was already handled and just needed to be attached to the file. He held it out. It was not a photocopy. It was the original. It was printed on thick, heavy bond paper, the kind meant to look important, and at the bottom, there it was, my name, Nora E. Whitfield, in blue ink, the forgery. I took it from his hand. I held it up next to the photocopy from my binder. Thank you, Mr. Hines. I turned to my family. This is the original, the one she used. Graham stared at the paper in my hand. He looked at the signature, then at Patricia. He was finally truly seeing her. Patty, he said, his voice a rasp. Where did you even get a sample of her signature to copy? That's her old signature. From college. Patricia did not answer. She stared at the floor, her jaw tight. She was cornered, and she knew it. She's had it for years, Dad, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. On my FAFSA application, she's been holding this ace for 12 years, just waiting to play it. Hines, the associate, was looking back and forth, his face pale. I don't understand. Is there a problem with the document? Yes, Mr. Hines, I said. It's a forgery, and you and your firm are now parties to it. His eyes went wide. He started to stammer. Mr. Stone assured me. That's enough, I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the tiny button-sized camera. I held it up for them all to see. This has been recording a wide shot of the room since I arrived, I said. And the recorder on the table has captured every word. Both are feeding live to a secure cloud server. That server is monitored by a data guardian, who has instructions to forward the entire file to the Colorado Bar Association and the Riverton PD if they do not hear from me in exactly 1 hour. I looked at Hines. Your turn to be a good witness. Mr. Hines? I looked at my family. Their faces were canvases of shock, fear, and in Patricia's case, pure hatred. I am not negotiating, I said, my voice final. I am not signing your asset transfer agreement. I left the forged original on the coffee table. I left the 3 black binders, my father's, my mother's, my brother's, right where they were. This is my evidence, I said. This is my case. This is your one and only chance to read it and understand what happens next. Do not contact me again. My lawyer will be in touch. I walked out of the living room. I walked down the hall. My footsteps loud in the sudden, crushing silence. I opened the front door, stepped out into the cool night air, and did not look back. I walked out of that house and did not stop. I did not go home. I drove to an all-night diner, took a booth in the back corner, and ordered black coffee. The binders were gone, left behind like grenades with the pins pulled, but I knew that was only phase 1. The binders were a declaration of war in a private room, the bad reviews, Brady's Facebook post. That was a public war, and I was losing. My reputation was my one remaining asset, and they were trying to burn it to the ground. By 3 a.m., with my laptop open on the sticky diner table, I had a plan. Evidence wasn't enough. I had to control the narrative. I bought a domain name. Simple, clean, impossible to misinterpret. Truth of Unit 1204. I am a designer. I know how to build a clean, minimalist, professional-looking website in a few hours. I did not make it look like a crazy person's rant. I designed it like a legal filing. I used a calm, slate-gray background. I used a clear serif font. The homepage was a statement. This site is a factual record of a coordinated campaign of fraud and harassment targeting a private resident. All documents are presented without emotional commentary. The timeline speaks for itself. I created a page. The timeline. I created a page. The evidence. I started uploading. The email from the bank. HELOC fraud email. PDF. The screenshot of the hard inquiry. Inquiry 1001.png. The access log from my smart lock. Lock log 1008.csv. The transcript of Eli's audio file. With his signed consent. Hallway audio transcript. PDF. I did not upload the video or the audio itself. Not yet. That was the in-case file. I just posted the timestamps. 9:08 a.m. Unauthorized code attempts. 9:15 a.m. Audio. This is your brother's house. 9:16 a.m. Audio. Ungrateful. I did not use my family's names. I used designations. Perpetrator A, mother. Perpetrator B, brother. Perpetrator C, father. But I uploaded the Patty K 1-star review and let the name speak for itself. I uploaded Brady's Facebook post, with the name redacted but the text visible. I had built my digital fortress. My evidence was now backed up, public, and organized. Next, the law firm, Riverstone. I spent the next hour researching. I found the Colorado Bar Association's Rules of Professional Conduct. Section 1.2, Scope of Representation. Section 1.4, Communication. Section 4.1, Truthfulness in Statements to Others. I drafted a new letter. It was not emotional. It was surgical. I addressed it to the managing partner of Riverstone Law, CCing the junior associate, Hines, and the Ethics Committee of the Colorado Bar. Subject: Formal demand to identify source of fraudulent document. Limited power of attorney in the name of Nora Whitfield. I stated the facts. On Tuesday, October 11th, their associate delivered a document. That document was a forgery. The signature was fraudulent. I stated that their firm was now implicated in the creation and attempted execution of a fraudulent legal instrument. I demanded, within 48 hours, the full, unredacted record of communication indicating who provided their firm with the signature sample and who instructed them to draft the document. I ended it with a clear, cold threat. Failure to comply will be interpreted as an attempt to conceal your firm's role in this fraud. It will result in an immediate and formal complaint to the Colorado Bar. Citing violations of Rules 1.2, 1.4, and 4.1, and potential civil action against the firm for professional negligence and conspiracy to commit fraud. I sent it via email, with a red receipt. I sent a hard copy via certified mail. Then, the HOA. They were still stonewalling, hoping my 72-hour video loop had expired. They were wrong. Eli's camera ran on a 30-day loop. I sent a new, scathing letter to the entire board, not just Marcel. Subject: Breach of fiduciary duty and failure to protect resident safety. I cited the specific clause in our bylaws. Article 9. Section 2. Duty of care. The association, its board, and its officers shall act in good faith and in a manner they reasonably believe to be in the best interests of the association and its members. I wrote, the board, via its president, Darren Marcel, has actively conspired against a member. You did not act in good faith. You acted as an accomplice. You knowingly issued a key fob to a non-resident, facilitating a campaign of harassment. You have ignored a formal request for data preservation, constituting gross negligence. I attached the new formal request for inspection of records form. I gave them 24 hours to confirm receipt and provide a date for inspection. The digital and legal offenses were launched. Now, I had to save my name. Lumina works. I could not just delete the reviews. I had to drown them. I spent the morning calling 3 of my best clients from the past 2 years. Mark, I said to the owner of a popular downtown restaurant I had designed, I am in a difficult personal situation. My company is being targeted by fraudulent 1-star reviews from a family member. It is killing my business. Would you be willing to post a real, verified review of our work? He was furious on my behalf. Nora, whatever you need, that lighting rig you designed for our patio made our summer. I'll write one right now. I called the curator of a small art gallery. I called a wealthy couple whose smart home I had programmed. By noon on Wednesday, 3 new, glowing, 5-star reviews were at the top of my Google page. They were long, detailed, and specific. They talked about my professionalism, my calm demeanor, my eye for detail. They pushed Patty K and a concerned client so far down the page they barely registered. One of them, the gallery curator, also did a video testimonial. I embedded it on my Lumina Works homepage. Then, I went on my own company blog. I posted for the first time in months. It was a slow, deliberate, non-aggressive post. The title was, "A Note on Professional Integrity and Digital Harassment." I wrote, "In my career, I have prided myself on security, trust, and transparency. Recently, I was the victim of a sophisticated identity theft attempt, which included fraudulent loan applications filed in my name. This attack has, unfortunately, spilled over into my professional life, with coordinated, false reviews being posted. I did not name anyone. I did not get emotional. I am taking all legal steps to protect my assets and my business. This is how I am protecting my work, and by extension, my clients' trust. Lumina." Works has always been about bringing light to spaces. I will not let this temporary darkness win. I posted it. Within an hour, it was shared, not by a friend, but by the local furniture company I often sourced from. This is what professionalism looks like. We stand with Lumina Works. My email chimed, an inquiry, a small one, just for a residential consultation, but it was a start, then another. The blood was starting to flow back into the limb. Of course, poking the bear has consequences. On Thursday morning, I received a formal letter from the HOA's lawyers. It was not a response to my request. It was an attack. "It has come to our attention that you are the operator of a website, Truth of Unit 1204. This website contains defamatory, libelous, and slanderous statements concerning the building and its management. You are hereby ordered to cease and desist, and to take down the aforementioned website within 24 hours, or the association will be forced to pursue all legal remedies for the damages to its reputation." They were trying to silence me by accusing me of exactly what they were doing. I wrote back a 1-sentence email to their lawyer. "The truth is an absolute defense to defamation. My website contains only verifiable, factual evidence. See you in court." I printed their letter and pinned it to my new office wall. An hour later, a new email arrived. This one was different. It was from a Hotmail account, Justice Seeker 22. The subject, slander. The email was one long, rambling paragraph, all in caps. "You will be sorry. You are a liar, and you are spreading lies, and you will be sued for every penny you have. You are destroying a family. You have no heart. You will be prosecuted for slander. Take it down, or you will face the consequences. You ungrateful child." The language, the cadence, the obsession with slander and ungrateful. It was my mother. She was so predictable. She could not even create a new insult. I saved the email. Harassment Anon. DF. I added it to the harassment and damages folder. My phone rang. It was Eli. "Hey," he said, his voice serious. "I saw the HOA's letter. They slipped it under every door on our floor. The cease and desist. That is, intense. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Eli. It's a bluff." "Yeah, well, I wanted to tell you, I'm not just a witness. I'll sign an affidavit. I'll testify. That audio I have is crystal clear. I can hear her yelling, 'This is your brother's house,' as if she was in my living room. Whatever you need. Nora, I'm in." "Eli, that means a lot. Thank you. I'll let you know." I hung up, feeling the first real warmth I had felt in a week. But the paranoia was still there. The HOA's letter, my mother's email. They were desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. My chain lock felt flimsy. That afternoon, I had a new camera installed. It was not a doorbell cam. It was a peephole camera that replaced the peephole itself. It looked normal from the outside, but on the inside, it was high definition. It had a motion sensor. It recorded 24/7 in a time lapse, and most importantly, it did not save to a local drive. It uploaded every single frame directly to a secure, encrypted cloud server, the one I had given my data guardian access to. Even if they broke in and smashed it, it would be too late. They would already be on film. On Friday, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Is this Nora Whitfield?" a woman's voice asked. It was professional, sharp. "This is she. My name is Sarah Jenkins. I'm a reporter with the Colorado Housing Journal. I specialize in, well, housing and HOA abuses. A source on your HOA board sent me a tip. They said if I wanted to see a real-life conspiracy, I should check out a website called Truth of Unit 1204. So I did." My breath caught. "A source on the board?" The whistleblower. "That's right," she said. "Off the record, of course. But what I saw on your site, that's just the public part, isn't it? I have a feeling the real story is what's not on there, like the audio file of the assault or the name of the HOA president. This was it, the nuclear option, the moment to burn them all to the ground." I could picture the headline, "Daughter Sues Family, Shoah and Fraud Conspiracy." It would be everywhere. It would be my entire identity. I thought about it for one long second. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady, "I appreciate the call, but I'm not interested in a public story, not right now." "But your case is perfect. It has every element: familial betrayal, HOA corruption." "I'm sure it does," I said. "But my goal is not to be famous. My goal is to be safe. My website is not a press release. It's a shield. Everything on it is a matter of record. I'm not doing this for the media. I'm doing it for the discovery phase of a lawsuit." She was silent for a moment. "So, you're not going to comment? Not even off the record?" "Here is my only comment," I said. "I am a private citizen, a designer, and a homeowner. I was the victim of a crime. I am using every legal and factual tool at my disposal to protect my property and my livelihood. The evidence on my website is factual and non-defamatory. I will not be commenting on the names of the perpetrators at this time. I am only interested in the evidence." I stuck to the principle: no names, no emotion, just the facts. "Okay, Nora Whitfield," Sarah said, a new tone of respect in her voice. "I understand. That's a very smart way to play it. Can I call you back in a few weeks? When, as you said, discovery is over?" "You can," I said, "and I'll have more evidence for you then." I hung up. I had not just refused a story. I had set a deadline. The clock was ticking. My demand letter to the Riverstone law firm had a 48-hour fuse. They beat the deadline by 3 hours. An email landed in my inbox, not from the managing partner, but from their corporate counsel. It was terrified. CYA-laced legalese. They were tripping over themselves to show cooperation, to distance themselves from the blast radius. They claimed their associate, Mr. Hines, had no knowledge of the forgery. They claimed their partner, Mr. Stone, had acted on good faith instruction from the client. And then they gave me the client. We were instructed to create the limited power of attorney by a client acting under the entity N. Whitfield Services. The instructional email, which provided the signature sample, originated from. The email address was a new, horrifying construction. Whitfield, services at consultant, com. I stared at it. They had not just stolen my name, they had turned it into a fake corporate entity. My stomach turned. The email continued. Our records show this domain. Consultant, com, was first registered 10 days ago. 10 days, October 4th, 3 days after the hard inquiry, 3 days before they came for my door. This was the missing link between the credit pull and the forged power. I opened a new tab. I knew what a WOOI's trace was. I ran a search on the consultant, com domain. It was all garbage. The registrant was listed as Nora Services. The address was a PO box at a mail center. The phone number was a burner. But they had made one mistake. They had to pay for the domain. I dug into the registration. It was paid for by prepaid Visa 4992, a disposable credit card. A dead end? No, just a new door. I called the mail center. I posed as a fraud investigator from a bank. It was a bluff, but the clerk on the other end was bored and unconcerned. Yeah, Box 482? That's one of those virtual business things. We just scan their mail. The account was opened with a prepaid card. Do you have a name on the account? I asked. Just Nora Whitfield. And the card? Prepaid Visa, same one. Bought at the 7-Eleven on Larimer. When? October 4th, around noon. I hung up. The 7-Eleven on Larimer, 3 blocks from Brady's apartment. I called the store. I told the manager I was a freelance designer and that my brother, who had been helping me, had bought a gift card for a client there on October 4th. I said he'd lost the receipt, and I desperately needed the transaction time for my taxes. Look, lady, I can't. He has a condition. I lied, my voice thick with fake emotion. He gets confused. He used his own money, and I just need to pay him back. He would have been there around lunchtime. He has blonde hair, always wears a black hoodie. Oh, that kid, the manager said, his voice changing. Yeah, he's in here all the time. Hang on. I waited for 5 minutes, my heart pounding a low, sick rhythm. Yeah, he came back. October 4th, 12:03 p.m., 1 prepaid Visa, $200 limit, and a cherry Slurpee. Is there any way I could get a copy of the security footage for that transaction? I asked, my voice small. For my records? No way, lady, that's for police only. I understand, I said. Thank you. You have been a huge help. I hung up. I did not need the footage. I had the witness. I had the time. I had the Slurpee. I had Brady, cold. He had bought the card. He had registered the domain. He had created the email address that sent my forged FAFSA signature to the law firm. My brother was the digital architect of my ruin. But why? Brady was lazy. This was too much work. He was a passenger, not the driver. This level of coordination. This was Darren Marcel, the HOA president. What was the connection? I had the 2 men, Brady Whitfield and Darren Marcel. I just could not tie them together. I started digging, not into Marcel's HOA records, but into his personal records, public filings, social media. I found his golf club memberships. I found his wife's charity donations. And then I found the civil court dockets. It was a small claims filing, a debt collection case. It was recent, filed just last month. Plaintiff, Darren J., Marcel, defendant, Brady M., Whitfield. My hands went numb. I clicked the case file. It was a personal loan for $10,000. The filing included exhibits, text messages from Brady. I know I'm late, man. I'll get it. My sister's got this condo. It's worth a fortune. I'm good for it. And then, the worst of it, the promissory note. It was not for a loan. It was a gambling debt. A high-stakes poker game that Marcel ran out of his penthouse. Brady had lost, and Marcel was the beneficiary. This was it. This was the entire story. Marcel held Brady's $10,000 debt. Brady, terrified, offered up his rich sister's condo as collateral. Marcel, a corrupt man, saw a bigger play. Not just $10,000, but a full HELOC. They would use Patricia's family access and my forged signature to bleed my equity, pay off Brady's debt, and split the rest. Marcel was not just an accomplice. He was the co-conspirator. He was the one who needed the money, and Brady was his key. This was the leverage. This was the motive. My wall of evidence was missing this connection. I needed to know how deep the HOA rot went. I thought about the whistleblower. He is in on it. I looked up the building's management company. I found a name on an old newsletter. A building manager who had been fired abruptly 6 months ago, James Petrie. It took me an hour to find him on LinkedIn. He was working at a golf course now. I sent him a message. I am a resident at Riverton Towers, and I need to talk to you about Darren Marcel and the service elevator logs." He replied in 10 minutes. "Call me." "He's a crook," James said, his voice rough. "Marcel, he's been running that building like his personal piggy bank for years." "I know he's in on a fraud case with me," I said. "But I need to know how, the service elevator, the logs." "The logs?" He laughed, a bitter, barking sound. "There are no logs, not real ones. Marcel had us set up an off-book maintenance fee system. A vendor needs after-hours access. They slip him $500. He wants to let a guest use the freight elevator to move something in. He scrubs the log. So, the log I demanded from the HOA doesn't exist. He'd have deleted any record of that fob checkout the second it was returned. He trades access for favors. That's his whole game." I thanked him and hung up. The official channels were a dead end. Marcel controlled the data. I got home Wednesday, exhausted. The case was solid, but the proof of the HOA's direct involvement, the key fob, the elevator, was all circumstantial. It was Marcel's word against mine, and he would just delete the evidence. Another brown envelope was in my mailbox. My heart did not pound this time. It just stopped. Same as before. No stamp, no return address. I took it upstairs. Inside, there was no note, just a single black USB flash drive. My whistleblower. My hand was shaking as I plugged it into my laptop. I ran 3 different virus scans. It was clean. One file, HOA meeting audio, M4A. I put on my headphones and pressed play. The audio was muffled. It sounded like it was recorded from inside a suit pocket. I heard clinking glasses, chairs scraping. A voice, booming and overconfident. Darren Marcel. "And I say we table the motion on the new gym equipment. I believe I have a source for a significant private donation that could cover it all. We just need to be flexible." Another voice. "Flexible how?" "Darren?" Marcel, laughing. "A little quid pro quo. A family member of a potential donor needs some help. A little bit of board discretion. In exchange for their generosity, we just trade a few favors." My skin was crawling. I looked at the file's metadata. Date created, October 7th. Time created, 10:10 p.m. October 7th, 10:10 p.m. I opened my Evidence R12 folder. I opened the log from Mrs. Klein. Time, Friday, October 7th, 10:04 p.m. User, D. Marcel. Action, temporary resident fob, Unit 1204, issued. He was in that meeting, bragging about trading favors. At the exact same time he was signing out a key fob to my apartment. The recording was of the conspiracy. The whistleblower had not just given me a hint. They had given me the murder weapon. My phone rang. The caller ID was private number. I stared at it, then answered. "Nora?" My blood froze. It was my father. He sounded small. "Dad?" "Nora, please, don't hang up. I needed to." He was crying, a dry wheezing sound. "You were right. The binders. I read everything. God. Nora." "What do you want, Dad?" It's the money, Nora. The money. It's gone." "What money?" "My retirement," he whispered. The words choked. "The pension I took as a lump sum. Your mother. She made some investments. A friend of hers from the club. It was a scam. Nora, it's all gone. We're ruined." The line went silent. I was not breathing. "She didn't tell me." He was rambling now. "Not until last month. We're broke. We're going to lose the house." The pieces slammed into place so hard it knocked the air out of me. The birthday dinner, the HELOC, the limited power of attorney. "That's what this was," I said. It was not a question. "The HELOC. It wasn't for Brady's studio." "No," he sobbed. At first, maybe, but then it was to cover the loss, to plug the hole. Patricia. She said if she could just get her hands on your equity, she could fix it. She could move the money, pay our mortgage. She said you'd never even know. It would just be a loan. She said it was the only way. I closed my eyes. The real motive, it was darker, sadder, and infinitely more pathetic than I could have ever imagined. This was not a greedy grab for a deadbeat son. This was a desperate, panicked attempt by two drowning people to pull their last remaining life raft, me, underwater with them. They were not just stealing my condo. They were trying to use my life as living collateral to patch the holes in their own. I have to go, Dad. Nora, wait, please. What are you going to? I hung up. My phone immediately buzzed. An email from Sarah Jenkins, the reporter. Subject: following up. Nora, I respected your wishes, but my source came through with something explosive. A connection between your HOA president and a gambling debt. I'm putting the pieces together. I've attached a draft. I just need you to confirm. Is this your brother? Is this the link? I can have this on the front page by Friday. I opened the attachment. It was all there. Marcel, Brady, the $10,000 debt, the HELOC, the forged POA. She had found it all. This was the button, the one that would detonate everything. My hand was hovering over the reply button. Wait, this was too fast. If this article went live, Marcel and Riverstone would go into full shred and delete mode. The logs James Petrie said were scrubbed, they would be nuked. The email from N. Whitfield Services, it would be recalled and deleted. I had to chain the evidence down before I lit the match. I replied to Sarah, "Hold the story. Do not publish. I need 48 hours to secure the data. The story is correct, but if you publish now, the proof will disappear. Give me 2 days." Then, I opened a new document. I spent the next hour drafting the two most important letters of my life. I sent them to the HOA's legal counsel, Darren Marcel, and the managing partner of Riverstone Law. Formal notice of litigation and demand to prevent spoliation of evidence. I cited the cases. I cited the state laws. I made it clear that I was aware of their intent to destroy evidence. I listed every file I needed preserved, all server logs related to the domain, consultant.com, all emails from N. Whitfield Services, all IP logs for the HOA's administrative computers, all unedited video and access logs for the service elevator. I bound them, legally. They could no longer claim to be ignorant. If a single file went missing now, it would be an admission of guilt. My shield was up, my sword was sharp. My phone buzzed one last time. A text message. From Patricia. It was the first time she had ever contacted me without a command. Her words were small, terrified. "I messed up. He's just a boy. Please, Nora, save Brady." She was not sorry. She was just sorry she got caught. I did not reply. I had built the case. But a civilian cannot fire the cannon. I had spent the last 2 days vetting the top civil litigation firms in Denver. I needed a shark, but not a flashy one. I needed a surgeon. I found her, Avery Sloan of Pinnacle and Hart. Her reputation was quiet, methodical, and utterly brutal in discovery. I sat in her steel and glass office, my evidence R12 folder, now 4 inches thick and impeccably organized, on the table between us. I did not cry. I did not plead. I presented. For 30 straight minutes, I walked her through the wall, the FAFSA, the HELOC, the forgery, the HOA, the gambling debt. When I finished, she was silent for a long time, her fingers steepled. "Ms. Whitfield," she said finally, her voice a precise, low monotone. "This is not a case. This is a detonation. You have done 90% of my work, the other 10%. Well, that's the fun part." She leaned forward. "What is your desired outcome?" "Safety," I said. "Accountability, and I want them to pay. I want every cent I lost in business, every dollar I have spent defending myself, and I want a public, legal barrier that guarantees they can never come near me or my career again." "I can do that," Avery said. A thin, cold smile touched her lips. "Let's go to war." The next day, the Velfire missiles launched. Avery's first action was a 4-pronged demand letter, sent via courier, return receipt required, to 4 addresses. To Patricia and Brady Whitfield, you are hereby ordered to cease and desist all contact, harassment, and defamation, both digital and physical. You will issue a full, public retraction and apology for the fraudulent reviews and public statements. You will immediately account for and pay all damages related to Ms. Whitfield's documented loss of business and all legal fees. To Darren Marcel, personally, you are hereby put on notice of your role as a co-conspirator in criminal fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and conspiracy to commit identity theft. Your documented actions, including the issuance of a fraudulent key fob and complicity in leveraging a gambling debt, will be pursued to the full extent of the law. A separate demand has been sent to the HOA's counsel. This one is just for you. To Riverstone Law Firm, your firm has been identified as the instrument in the creation of a fraudulent legal document. We have documentation of your N. Whitfield Services correspondence. You will issue an immediate public apology, compensate Ms. Whitfield for all fees, and provide a full sworn affidavit from the partners involved, or we will proceed with a bar complaint and civil suit for professional malpractice by close of business Friday. The 4th letter was just the beginning. Avery filed a civil investigative demand with the HOA, a legal step just short of a full subpoena, demanding all records, not just the ones I had asked for, all logs for all elevators, not just service, all fobs, temporary and permanent, all administrative IP addresses, all internal emails, for the last 6 months, containing the words Marcel, Whitfield, or Unit 1204. My spoliation letter had frozen the data. Avery's CID was the ice pick. While she handled the legal front, I reinforced the public one. I posted a new, formal statement on the homepage of Lumina Works. To all current and future clients, Lumina Works is currently the target of a malicious harassment campaign, which has included false reviews. These actions are being handled by my legal counsel, Pinnacle and Hart. Any and all future defamatory statements will be met with immediate and decisive legal action. I remain, as always, committed to transparency and excellence in my work. My portfolio speaks for itself. It was a warning shot. It was also, as it turned out, the best marketing I had ever done. 2 days later, an email came in, not from a small residential client. The sender was from Arcturus Labs, a massive new biotech R&D facility opening in the tech corridor. Ms. Whitfield, we have been reviewing your online portfolio for our new campus. We have also seen your public statement regarding professional integrity. Your work is excellent, and your transparency is commendable. We would like to schedule a walkthrough for a full campus lighting design contract. Our VP of Operations is available to meet next week. I stared at the email. A full campus contract. This was not a $5,000 consultation. This was a 6-figure project. They had seen the fight, seen the Patty K review, seen my response, and had not been scared off. They had been impressed. My family had tried to ruin my reputation. Instead, they had become an accidental reference for my integrity. Of course, the rats in the trap only bite harder. My phone rang, a private number. I let Avery's new system pick it up. All my calls were now routed through a recording service. I listened to the voicemail a minute later. It was Patricia. Her voice was wrong. It was not screaming. It was not commanding. It was sweet, sickeningly sweet. Nora, darling, it's Mom. I know we've had a disagreement. Your father told me he called you, that you're upset about the money. Oh, Nora, it's all just a terrible misunderstanding. I could hear the smile in her voice, the practiced, manipulative charm. I have a wonderful idea, she cooed. Why don't you just sign the condo over to me? Just temporarily, darling, just as a formality, so I can, move things around. I'll sign it right back. I promise. In a year. We can have a lawyer write it up. That way, this whole fraud mess just disappears. It becomes a family arrangement. We can all be happy again. Call me, honey. Let's fix this. I saved the audio file. I labeled it Solicitation to Commit Fraud, 1018.mp4. I emailed it to Avery. The subject line, More for the pile. Her reply, This is beautiful. Then came Brady. He, apparently, was not capable of such subtle manipulation. My phone rang again. This time, it was Mrs. Klein from the front desk. Ms. Whitfield, Nora, you need to come down to the garage, level P2, and you might want to call your lawyer. I ran to the elevator. The doors opened on the garage. Mrs. Klein was standing there, wringing her hands, next to a security guard. And on the wall, my parking space, my beautiful, clean, assigned parking space. It was covered in red spray paint. Nora the whore liar stole my money. He was just so fast, the security guard said, pointing at the CCTV camera directly above us. We got an alert, but by the time we got down here, he ran for the stairs. You have him on camera? I asked, my voice flat. Oh yeah, the guard said, tapping his monitor. Clear as day, blonde kid, black hoodie. He looked right at the camera. Too stupid. Brady, he had signed his own confession in spray paint. I need that footage, I said. And I need that report. I am filing a police report for vandalism and harassment, right now. Already on it, Ms. Whitfield, the guard said. He looked at the wall, then at me. Your family, huh? I'd trade 'em in. I emailed Avery the photos and the security report number. The enemy was in disarray. Darren Marcel was the next to panic. He did not have the subtlety of Patricia or the stupid passion of Brady. He only had the blunt instrument of the HOA. A letter was slipped under my door, a formal notice. Dear Ms. Whitfield, you are hereby fined $5,000 for creating a public nuisance. Your ongoing media campaign and website, Truth of Unit 1204, have caused significant damage to the reputation of Riverton Towers. It was a laughably clumsy act of retaliation. I forwarded it to Avery. She replied in 5 minutes. To HOA Legal Counsel, this is your final warning. Your client, Mr. Marcel, has just committed an act of retaliatory action against my client, a protected resident, in direct violation of CR 38 to 33.3302. This fine is void. Your client's actions are transparent. Any further contact with my client, other than through my office, will be considered a continuation of this harassment campaign. We have added this to our damages claim against the HOA. You just cost your client an extra $50,000. Checkmate. The final piece, Riverstone, crumbled without a sound. Avery got a call from their terrified managing partner. He sounded, she said, like a man who had not slept. The junior associate, Hines, Avery told me, barely suppressing her amusement. He's given a full, internal deposition. He says he told Mr. Stone the signature looked hinky. He said it looked like a copy-paste from an older document. He was ordered to just file it. They are, how do I put this? Deeply motivated to make this go away. They have offered to pay all your legal fees, personally sanction Mr. Stone, and provide a sworn affidavit against Patricia Whitfield. They were all falling. All except one. I was sitting at a cafe, the one near my old house, the one I knew he went to. It was Friday. I had been waiting for 20 minutes. He shuffled in, looking a decade older. Graham, my father. He saw me, flinched, and sat down. He did not order coffee. Nora, he said, his eyes on the table. This has all gone too far. It went too far the night you toasted my financial ruin, I said, my voice cold. I know. Avery Sloane, Pinnacle and Hart. Your mother got the letter. She's a wreck. She's a criminal. So is Brady. So is Marcel. And so are you. His head snapped up. Me? I didn't do anything. Exactly, I said. You stood there. You are an accomplice by silence. You were the lookout. He deflated. He knew it was true. What? What do you want, Nora? I don't have any money. I told you, we're broke. You can't sue us.
I'm not here for money. Dad, not from you.
He leaned in, his voice a desperate, conspiratorial whisper. Then, what if I helped you? I could testify. I could tell them, that Patricia was confused, that Brady's a good boy. If I help you, could you keep me out of it? Keep my name off the final lawsuit? He was trying to defect. He was trying to trade his wife and son for his own reputation. It was the most pathetic, cowardly thing I had ever seen. I looked at him, my face a mask of stone. You want to help me? You want to change sides and save yourself?
Yes, he said, nodding eagerly. Anything.
I don't need your testimony, I said. I have everything, but you have one thing I want, not for the court, for me. What? I pushed a blank sheet of paper and a pen across the table. I want a confession, I said. I want you to write down, in your own hand, exactly what you told me on the phone, that the retirement is gone, that Patricia admitted to the scam, that she told you she was going to use my HELOC to plug the hole, that you knew about it before the night at my door, and I want you to write down how she got my data. I want you to write the word FAFSA. I want you to sign it, and I want you to date it. He stared at the pen. Nora, that's a suicide note. No, I said. It's the first honest thing you will have done in 30 years. You want to be kept out of it? This is the price. You will sign your name to the truth, or you will be named as a co-conspirator. Your choice. He looked at the pen. He looked at me. He looked at the door. There was no escape. He picked up the pen. His hand was shaking. I didn't know about the FAFSA, he whispered. Liar, I said. She told you. She told you how she was going to fix it. Write it down. He flinched, and then he uncapped the pen. He started to write. I, Graham Whitfield, am writing this statement. He wrote about the investments. He wrote about the money being gone. He wrote about Patricia's panic. He paused. Write it, I commanded. He flinched, then wrote, Patricia told me she could fix it. She said she had Nora's old college forms, the FAFSA, with all her information. She said she could use it to get a loan on the condo. He signed his name at the bottom. He dated it. He pushed the paper back to me. His hand was covered in ink. He was weeping. For the first time in his life, he had chosen the truth instead of silence. I folded the paper. I put it in my pocket. I stood up. Thank you for your statement, Dad. I left him there, crying into his hands. I thought the victory was total. I thought, with Graham's confession in my pocket and the demand letter sent, that I finally had a moment to breathe. That peace lasted less than 24 hours. A new email appeared, not from Mountain View Financial, and not from the Riverstone lawyers. This one was from a small, agile, and hungry-looking mortgage broker based in a suburb I had never heard of, Pioneer Lending. The subject line, Your application status, action required. My blood did not run cold. It evaporated. I opened it. It was a second HELOC application. This was not a copy. This was a new attack. They had learned. This one was smaller, for $50,000. It used the temporary P.O. box address that Brady had set up. They were smarter this time. They were trying to bypass my credit freeze by using a small, independent broker who might move faster than the national reporting bureaus. They were hoping to ram it through before the automated fraud alerts caught up. I was on the phone with Avery in seconds. They are still trying, I said, my voice a dead calm. They are actively, right now, trying to steal it again. This is insane, Avery said. This is beyond harassment. This is a pathological compulsion. Send me the full email, the headers, everything. I need the metadata. I sent it. She called back in 10 minutes, and I had never heard her sound so energized. Nora, they just lost the war, she said. What? Avery, they're applying for new loans. Yes, and I know where they applied from. I pulled the IP address from the submission metadata, 172.58.110. It's not a home address. It's not a coffee shop. She paused for effect. It's the registered static IP address for the administrative office Wi-Fi of the Riverton Towers HOA. Darren Marcel. He had not just given them a key. He had not just looked the other way. He had invited them into his office, sat them down at his computer, and let them use the building's own internet to file a second fraudulent loan application. He's not just an accomplice, Nora, Avery said, her voice like flint. He's the host. He's the bank. What do? We stop asking, she said. This is not a discovery dispute anymore. This is an active, ongoing criminal enterprise. They just proved it. My spoliation letter froze the old evidence. This new attempt gives me grounds for an emergency court order. I'm filing right now. She was true to her word. She did not just file a motion. She filed for an emergency subpoena ducis tecum, attaching the new HELOC application, the IP trace, and my father's handwritten confession as proof of motive and a pattern of behavior. The judge's response was immediate and furious. Motion granted. The court found a clear and present danger of ongoing, immediate, and irreparable financial harm. The Riverton HOA was ordered, not asked, ordered, to surrender its complete, unedited server logs, Wi-Fi access logs, and IP records for the past 30 days to a court-appointed forensic analyst. Darren Marcel was in a trap of his own making. He could no longer delete the evidence. The pressure must have been immense, because the enemy began to crack and make mistakes. They got sloppy. I came home 2 days later to find a piece of paper slipped under my door. It was another appraisal notice for the new $50,000 HELOC. It was a poorly printed, pixelated photocopy. This was not a real document. A real appraiser would have called. This was a message. It was a piece of psychological warfare. A clumsy attempt to tell me, we are still here. We can still get to your door. We are still coming. They had forgotten about my new peephole camera. I did not touch the paper. I went to my laptop and pulled the encrypted cloud feed. I rewound the footage. There, at 3:04 in the afternoon. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Darren Marcel stepped out. He was in his golf shirt. He looked harried, his face red. He walked quickly to my door, looked both ways down the empty hall, and bent down. He slid the fake notice under my door. He did not knock. He just turned, jammed the elevator button, and disappeared. I had him. The president of the HOA, on high-definition video, personally delivering a fraudulent, intimidating document to my doorstep. I saved the clip. I labeled it Marcel Delivery 2022 MP4. I emailed it to Avery. Subject: he's helping. The panic was setting in on all fronts. The coordinated attack had dissolved into a desperate, every-man-for-himself scramble. Patricia was the first to try and cut a deal, a private, emotional one. I received an email from her AOL account. Subject: please, Nora, for your mother. It was a video file. I scanned it for viruses, then played it. Patricia appeared on my screen. She was in her immaculate living room. She was wearing a soft, beige cashmere sweater. She had clearly been crying, or had at least applied the makeup to look like she had. Her hands were clasped so tightly, her knuckles were white. "Nora," she whispered, her voice cracking perfectly. "Honey, this has all gone too far. The lawyers, the websites, this is family." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "I just got a terrible letter from that law firm, Riverstone. They're trying to blame me for everything. It's all just a terrible misunderstanding. Baby, please." Her eyes, glistening, looked directly into the camera. "Turn off the lawyers. Just meet me, your mother, for coffee, before the newspapers find out. Let's fix this, just us." It was a masterful performance. The victimhood, the emotional blackmail, the appeal to secrecy, the subtle threat of public shame, as if I were the one who should be embarrassed. I did not reply. I forwarded the video to Avery. Avery, please inform my mother that all future attempts at emotional manipulation are to be routed through your office. Add it to the harassment file. Next, Riverstone. Their panic was purely financial. Avery called me. They're folding like a cheap suit, she said, satisfaction plain in her voice. They've made a formal settlement offer. They will pay my full fee, your documented business losses, and all costs. They will provide a notarized affidavit invalidating the forged power of attorney. Good, I said. But there's a but. It's a confidential settlement, and it comes with a no admission of liability clause. They'll pay to make it go away, but they will never admit they did anything wrong. I was silent for a beat. I thought about the forged signature. I thought about the junior associate, Hines, who had been the whistleblower's key. No, I said. Nora, this is a strong offer. It makes you whole. No, I said again, my voice like steel. It's not about the money, it's about the record. Tell them I will only accept the settlement on 2 conditions. 1, the settlement is not confidential. 2, it must include a formal though written admission that the power of attorney was fraudulent, and it must state, by name, that the instruction and signature sample came from Patricia Whitfield via the N. Whitfield Services email. I want her name on their letterhead, admitting they were duped. That's the only way I sign. Avery laughed, a short, sharp, happy sound. I'll send them your counteroffer. I truly hope they have good malpractice insurance. And then, Brady, the weakest link, the linchpin of the whole conspiracy. It turned out Darren Marcel's $10,000 gambling debt was not Brady's only problem. He had other creditors, and they were not as patient. The whistleblower, who was now communicating with Avery directly, sent a final tip. Look at the Clark County docket. He has other investors. Avery found it, a different lawsuit, a casino marker from a hospitality group in Las Vegas. They were suing Brady for $50,000, and as part of their evidence, they had attached their proof of his assets. They had attached the loan application Brady had sent them, and in that application, as Exhibit C, was a photograph. It was a selfie, taken by Brady. He was grinning like an idiot, holding a thumbs up. Over his shoulder, in the background, sat Darren Marcel at his desk. The room was unmistakable. The HOA administrative office. Avery pulled the metadata from the court filing. The photo was taken on October 6th. The exact day the second HELOC application, the one from Pioneer Lending, had been filed from the HOA's IP address. Brady had been in the room with Marcel, committing federal wire fraud, and he had stopped to take a selfie. He had sent it to his other creditors as proof that he was making moves. He was the stupidest criminal in the history of the world. We have it, Avery whispered over the phone. We have them all, in one photo, the conspiracy, the location, the perpetrators. It's done. The final piece landed in my inbox. Sarah Jenkins, the reporter. Subject, running it. Nora, I have it all. My source on the board, the court-ordered subpoena, the second HELOC application, the selfie from the Vegas lawsuit. My God, my editor has cleared the front page. We are running this Friday, 7 a.m. This is your final chance to comment. The countdown had begun. My spoliation letters were in place. The subpoenas were served. The evidence was locked. I replied to Sarah. Sarah, no comment, but thank you for your diligence. See you Friday. Thursday night, the night before the article would drop. The air in my apartment felt thin. At 11 p.m., the lights in my hallway flickered and died. The kitchen went dark. My peephole camera feed went black. I did not panic. I opened my laptop. The camera itself was dead, but its internal battery was still powering its connection. The cloud feed was still live, now in grainy green and black night vision. Someone was in the breaker room. They had cut the power to the 12th floor hallway, thinking it would blind me. I sat in the dark, watching the feed. For 2 hours, nothing, just the silent, green-tinged image of my hallway. Then, at 2:13 in the morning, the elevator dinged. The sound was deafening in the silence. A single figure emerged. It was Patricia. She was not the commanding matriarch. She was not the crying victim from the video. She was a ghost. She was alone, wearing a dark raincoat, her hair stringy and wet, though it was not raining. She walked to my door. Her hand was shaking so violently she could barely hold the white envelope she was carrying. She did not knock. She did not ring the bell. She looked up, directly into the lens. Her eyes were wide, black holes in the night vision. She looked terrified, as if she knew I was on the other side, watching. She bent down. She slid the thick white envelope under my door. Then she turned and ran. She did not walk. She ran for the elevator, a choked animal sound escaping her as she jabbed the button. The doors closed. She was gone. I sat in the dark for 10 minutes. Finally, I stood up. I walked to the door. I slid the chain. I turned the 3 deadbolts. I looked down. A thick white envelope. No name, no address. I picked it up. It was heavy. I stood in the pre-dawn silence, the heavy white envelope in my hand. The power was still out in the hallway, a dead, artificial quiet. I did not need light to know what this was. It was a surrender. I tore it open. It was not a letter. It was a notebook, a small, dark blue, leather-bound journal, the kind Patricia used to keep by the phone for messages. Her handwriting, usually a pristine, controlled cursive, was a frantic, jagged scrawl. I turned the pages. It was a logbook of the conspiracy. September 30th. Call Mountain View. General inquiry. Forgot pet's name. October 1st. Got info from FAFSA box. Called back. Whiskers. October 2nd. Brady found Riverstone Law. Good. Stone says POA is standard. October 4th. Brady set up email. N. Whitfield. Services. Sent FAFSA copy for signature. It went on for pages, a meticulous, terrifying record of her daily tasks in the plot to ruin me. She had listed the bank's automated prompts, the hold music, her own memory passwords for my life. I turned to the last entry. It was from 2 nights ago, the night before she cut the power. It was barely legible, the pen digging into the paper. He's just a boy. They'll ruin him. It was all to keep the house. Our house. It was for Brady. He deserves a start. It was not an apology. It was a justification, a mission statement. She was not sorry for the crime. She was just terrified of the consequences. I slid the notebook into a clear evidence bag. Avery would want this. I made coffee as the sun came up. 7 a.m. I opened my laptop and pulled up the Colorado Housing Journal. I refreshed the page. And there it was, the front page story. The headline was a clean, sharp blade. When your HOA becomes the muscle for identity theft. Sarah Jenkins had done her work. She had changed the personal names. I was a Denver-based designer. Brady was the relative. Patricia was the mother. But she had not changed the important names. Darren Marcel, Riverstone Law Firm, Riverton Towers, HOA. She laid out the entire timeline, just as I had on my wall of evidence, but now it was for the public. It was a masterclass in factual, chronological damnation. The article began, the conspiracy began, as many do, with a family dinner on October 1st. That same night, a hard inquiry hit the designer's credit. Less than 5 days later, a fraudulent HELOC application was filed. By October 7th, false 1-star reviews appeared, attacking her business. By October 10th, a forged power of attorney was being routed by a prominent Denver law firm, and the president of her own HOA was preparing to let an appraiser into her unit. The article was a roadmap of my evidence, citing the court-ordered subpoena for the HOA's IP address, the Las Vegas lawsuit, and the incredibly damning selfie that Brady had taken from inside the HOA office while committing the fraud. The public, my building, my clients, they were not just hearing my side of the story, they were reading the court filings. The first email hit my inbox at 7:45 a.m. It was from Arcturus Labs. Ms. Whitfield, I just read the piece in the Housing Journal. I must admit, our VP was sent the link by a board member of our own. We value transparency and integrity above all else. What you did to protect your assets and your reputation was remarkable. Your temporary contract for the campus project is approved. Please let us know when you can start. My hands were steady on the keyboard. I replied, I can start Monday. The dominoes, which I had so carefully set, began to fall, fast. A text from Eli. Holy Nora, the HOA just sent out a blast email. Emergency meeting, tonight, 7 p.m., open to all residents. You just blew up the building. Another email. This one from the HOA's actual legal counsel. A different firm from the one that had sent me the cease and desist. This one was dripping with panic. Dear Ms. Whitfield and Counsel, this email is to inform you that, pending an internal investigation sparked by today's article, Mr. Darren Marcel has been temporarily suspended from all board duties, effective immediately. The Riverton Towers HOA board was unaware of his alleged actions and intends to cooperate fully with the court-ordered forensic investigation. They were cutting him loose. They were running for their lives. Avery called me, her voice crisp. It's a good morning, Nora. I saw the HOA email, I said. That's not the half of it. Riverstone is in full meltdown. The article mentioning them, even without naming the partner, has triggered their malpractice insurance. They just sent me the entire internal file. They are desperate to prove they were duped by Patricia, not complicit.
What's in the file?
The smoking gun, she said. A chain between Hines, the junior associate, and Mr. Stone, the partner. Hines flagged the POA 2 days before he met you at your parents' house. I'm reading it. Mr. Stone, I have concerns about the veracity of this POA signature. It appears digitized and does not match other recent filings. I would advise we get a new wet signature. Stone's reply. 1 minute later. Client is in a hurry. Just file it. It's a family matter. They knew. They had been warned, and they did it anyway. And Graham? I asked, looking at the confession he had written, still on my desk. He just dropped it off, Avery said. Our receptionist said he looked like a ghost. He gave her the letter, said this is for Ms. Sloan, and ran out. We now have a signed, handwritten confession from a co-conspirator, and at the exact same moment he was handing it to us. What? A process server just confirmed. Patricia Whitfield has been served with a civil summons. My father was confessing while my mother was being served. The house of Whitfield was falling on 2 separate, perfectly timed fronts. Of course, there was Brady. His predictable Facebook status appeared. It was a deluge of self-pity. A maudlin post about how his life was ruined by lies and betrayal. My own family is trying to destroy me just because I'm successful. They are telling lies to the media, and everyone believes them. My life is over. He was, as always, the victim. But this time, the public was not on his side. The first comment on his post was not sympathy. It was from a neighbor. Dude, the article literally quotes the court filing. It's not lies. It's public record. Another one. Successful? The article said you have a $10,000 gambling debt with your HOA president. And another. I'm confused. Did you not send a selfie from the scene of the crime? Sarah Jenkins cited the file. Did you? The article had cited the evidence. It had mentioned the vandalism, linking to the police report, and the footage of him in the black hoodie. His public narrative had been vaporized by a single link to a court document. The cleanup phase was almost automatic. Avery sent copies of the lawsuit and the Housing Journal article to the legal departments of Google and Yelp. By noon, the 1-star reviews were gone. The Patty K review was erased. The A Concerned Client review was nowhere to be found. An email from Yelp's corporate counsel simply stated, after a review of the provided legal documentation, these reviews were found to be in violation of our policy on conflicts of interest. My 5-star rating was restored. My name was clear. That evening, I did something I had not planned on. I opened my Lumina Works Instagram account. I went live. I sat at my desk, my office wall clean behind me. I was not a victim. I was not a plaintiff. I was a business owner. Good evening, I said, my voice steady as the viewer count climbed. My name is Nora Whitfield. Many of you have read an article today, and I wanted to talk about it. I am not here to discuss my family. I am here to host a Q&A on a topic I have, unfortunately, become an expert in: protecting your assets from toxic relatives. I did not use her name. I did not use his name. I said, when a perpetrator tries to gain access to your credit, you must file a hard freeze, not a lock, a freeze. I said, you must document every interaction. Do not use your personal email. Create a new, secure account. Save every file. I said, a legal battle is not about emotion. It is about evidence. Keep a log. Save your screenshots. The person with the better data wins. I was not the grieving daughter. I was the expert. I was turning the worst experience of my life into a pillar of my professional brand. Integrity, security, transparency. The last domino fell on Friday, late in the afternoon. It was an automated email, not from a person, but from the system. It was from Mountain View Financial, the fraud department. Dear Ms. Whitfield, in light of the ongoing multi-party fraud investigation associated with your file, Case F1008, Mountain View Financial has placed a permanent high alert security flag on your social security number and your property at 1204 Riverton Towers. All pending and future applications for credit, including the fraudulent HELOC applications from Mountain View and Pioneer Lending, have been permanently closed and voided. This security protocol, barring all new lines of credit, will remain in effect for 12 months. We thank you for your vigilance. The castle was secure. The locks were changed. The mortgage was mine. And the door was, finally, closed. We were not in a courtroom. We were in a pre-trial mediation room on the 14th floor of the civil courthouse. It was a neutral, sterile gray, and it smelled like stale coffee and anxiety. There was no judge. There was no jury. There was only a long, polished mahogany table that served as the battlefield. I sat on one side with Avery Sloan. On the other side sat Patricia and Brady, flanked by their exhausted, court-appointed attorney. Graham, my father, sat in a chair against the back wall, physically separate from them, a man on his own island of shame. Darren Marcel was present with the HOA's new legal counsel, and the managing partner of Riverstone Law sat at the far end, staring at his clasped hands. The table between us was not empty. It held the evidence. My Evidence R12 folder, which had started as a few screenshots, was now a massive, 4-inch thick, court-stamped, wire-bound volume. It was the physical manifestation of my wall, and it sat in the center of the table like an unexploded bomb. Avery did not make an opening statement. She stood, plugged her laptop into the large monitor on the wall, and the screen flickered to life. We will begin with the events of Saturday, October 8th, she said, her voice a clinical, precise monotone. She pressed play. The audio that filled the silent room was not from my phone. It was the high-fidelity file from Eli's doorbell camera. We heard the aggressive, repetitive beeping of the failed codes. We heard the thud of Brady's shoulder hitting the doorframe, and then we heard my mother's voice, clear, sharp, and imperious, echoing in the quiet room. "Open up! This is your brother's house!" Patricia flinched, a sharp, involuntary jerk, as if she had been physically struck. Brady sank lower in his chair, his face pale. "This establishes the intent and the harassment," Avery said, clicking to the next slide. "Now, we establish the conspiracy." The screen changed. It was a data log, a spreadsheet. "These," Avery said, "are the Wi-Fi and IP logs for the HOA Administrative Office, obtained via court-ordered subpoena. You will see here. IP address 172.58.110. She highlighted the line. This IP address was used on October 6th to file the second fraudulent HELOC application in Ms. Whitfield's name, the one sent to Pioneer Lending. She clicked again. The view changed to a video file, my peephole camera. And this is 3:04 p.m., October 22nd. The room watched in silence as Darren Marcel, dressed in his golf shirt, materialized on the screen. We watched him look both ways down the empty hall, bend over, and slide the fake appraisal notice under my door. Darren Marcel's lawyer, a woman I had never met, let out a long, slow sigh and pushed a document across the table. The collapse was quick. The entities with reputations to lose fell first. Riverstone Law Firm, Avery said, looking at the managing partner. He did not speak. He just took the pen, and he signed the settlement agreement. It was a full, public admission of their firm's flawed process. It included a formal, written apology to me, and it contained a check, already certified, to cover all of my legal fees and associated damages. Riverton Towers HOA, Avery said, turning to their counsel. Their lawyer signed. They agreed to a complete, top-to-bottom overhaul of their resident access and key fob protocols. They agreed to pay a substantial 5-figure sum for reputational damages to my business, Lumina Works, and they agreed to the immediate, public, and permanent removal of Darren Marcel from the board, along with all associated fines. Marcel was left alone, his allies gone, his defense vaporized by his own face on a high-definition screen. And then there was just the family. Avery slid the final, thickest document to the center of the table. And now, she said, her voice dropping, the primary perpetrators, Patricia and Brady Whitfield. I looked at my mother. I watched her as she stared at the document. The power she had wielded my entire life, the commanding voice, the unshakable certainty of her own righteousness, the authority that could make a grown woman feel like a disobedient child. It was all gone. Her face was gray. Her hands were shaking. She was not a matriarch. She was just a tired, frightened woman who had been caught. She looked up at me, her eyes meeting mine, and for the first time in my life, I saw no anger, no manipulation. I saw only pure, undiluted fear. Avery read the terms aloud, as if she were reading a verdict. On Patricia Whitfield and Brady Whitfield will author and sign a formal public apology. This apology will be posted to all social media platforms and to the Google and Yelp review pages. This apology will contain no excuses, no justifications, and no mitigating language. It will be an admission of fact. 2. You will be subject to a 5-year, legally binding restraining order. You will not come within 500 feet of Nora Whitfield. You will not come within 500 feet of her residence. Unit 1204. You will not contact or attempt to contact any of her clients, past, present, or future. 3. You will make full restitution for all remaining documented damages. This includes the cost of the new security system, the fees for the therapy, Ms. Whitfield is now attending, the cost of the spray paint removal in the garage, and all associated court costs. Brady picked up the pen. His hand was shaking. He stared at the signature line, his face a mask of furious, childish disbelief. He looked up, his lip curling, his eyes darting to his mother, ready to deflect, to blame. But he started, his voice a whine. It does not matter, Brady, Avery said, her voice flat. I did not say anything. I did not engage. I did not care who he blamed. As long as he signed, I just stared at the exit sign over the door, detaching myself from the moment. My indifference must have been the final blow. He saw he had no leverage. He knew he had no audience. He looked down, and with a vicious, angry jab, he signed his name, a petulant scrawl. Then, Graham. He had to sign as a witness to their signatures. Avery had prepared an addendum for him. I am signing as well, Graham said, his voice quiet, raspy. He pointed to the last page. This is an appendix to the settlement. It legally transfers the entirety of my remaining retirement savings, the $43,000 left from Patricia's scam, directly to Nora as a first payment on the restitution. It is all I have. He signed it. He did not look at his wife. Finally, it was Patricia's turn. She was the last one. The pen was in her hand. This was the moment, the final act, the signature she had stolen from my FAFSA form, the one she had forged onto a power of attorney, was now the only thing that would set me free. She pressed the pen to the paper. Her hand was shaking so badly that the blue ink of her name, Patricia Whitfield, smeared across the line, an ugly, wet blur. It was done. The cord, the one they had tried to use as a leash, the one they had fashioned into a noose, was finally irrevocably cut. Avery stood, gathering the signed documents, a look of grim satisfaction on her face. "You are all free to go." They filed out like ghosts. Brady, his head down, refusing to look at anyone. Patricia, staring at the floor, seeming to have aged 10 years in 2 hours. Graham, walking alone, clutching his coat. I stood up. I reached into my coat pocket. I pulled out a single, simple, brass key. "This was the key to the storage unit," I said, my voice echoing slightly in the now empty room. "The one on the first floor of my building. I was keeping it for you, in case you ever visited, in case you needed somewhere to store holiday decorations." I placed it gently on the table, on top of the smeared copy of the settlement agreement. "I don't need it anymore." I walked out of the room. I did not wait for Avery. I did not take the elevator. I walked to the end of the hall and pushed open the heavy door to the stairwell. I stepped inside. I was alone. The concrete shaft was cool and quiet. I took a breath. It was the first deep, clean, truly free breath I had taken in a month. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out, still standing on the stairwell landing. It was an email from Arcturus Labs. Subject: "Welcome aboard. Nora, just got off the call. The board has signed off on the final proposal. The contract is official. Welcome to the project. We are incredibly excited to see what you design." I read the words again. The contract is official. A small smile, one that was entirely my own, touched my lips. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. I looked down the long, empty flight of stairs. I started walking, and I did not look back. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where you are listening from. So please drop your city or country in the comments below so we can connect. What did you think of Patricia's last-minute notebook? Please share your thoughts. Make sure you subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and give us extra support by hitting that hype button to help this story be heard by more people.